Hello, this is Kathy Obrushansky. I've created this presentation to serve as part two of your ESL training. Part one was an in-person training. So let's dive right in. In 2020, there were 5 million ELs in the US, which is 10% of the public school population. So you can see that it's important that we take part in professional development to make sure that we are reaching this ever-growing part of our student population. Some basic terms. ESL is the program. English as a second language. EL or ELL is the English language learner. That's the student, also referred to as bilingual, multilingual learner. If a student has been in the ESL program for 7 years or more, they are considered long term. You also will see the term newcomer. And then the term ILP is an individual learning plan. Similar to for special ed, you have IEP. The ILP is for the ESL program. The ESL program is federally funded through the Title III, and that means that it is not an option to give those students their accommodations. Next, WIDA is a consortium that creates professional development and assessment. You will see in the ILP, in addition to the screener results, the students' Access 2.0 results. You'll see their accommodations and things like that. And this Access 2.0 is administered through WIDA. The team of stakeholders will determine the accommodations and list them in the student's ILP. So we have a wide range of accommodations that you'll see. You will see graphic organizers, concrete manipulatives, extended time and break, peer tutoring, text to speech is in most of our textbooks, as well as IXL, and then bilingual dictionaries. That is appropriate if the student is fluent, as it can read and write in their first language. Multimodality of communication. So, communication is in many forms: spoken and written, equations, maps, diagrams, and charts, facial expressions, and acting it out. So, a lot of this is charades. Speaking slowly, but do not speak more loudly. That doesn't help. Hand signals and gestures. Be sure to enunciate and then summarize what you've said, especially if you've talked a lot. Music, images, videos, computer mediated content. All of these things are considered communication. Next, we want to integrate the content and the language. And here's a quote from WIDA ELD Standards Framework in the 2020 edition. Academic content is the context for language learning, and language is the means for learning academic content. So these two things are integrated. We're not just learning English grammar. We are integrating the English grammar and pointing that out, all parts of English, not just the grammar, but we're pointing that out at the same time that we are learning content. So the ELs learn the same content, but through their unique language expectations and goals. You will see their each student's expectations and goals in their ILP. We also, for all of our students, we're going to make communication an integral part of the learning process. So that is something that is, maybe turn to a partner and discuss this problem, or, a wide range of modalities for learning the content. So let's dive right into the stages of language acquisition. So we have pre-productions called the silent period, lasts from a day to 6 months. It's called the absorbing phase. You have a 500-word vocabulary. Students are going to be doing a lot of repeating, and it can be very stressful because the students cannot always express some of their basic needs. Next, we have early production. You have a 1,000-word vocabulary, speaking in 1 or 2 word sentences. You're going to want to make sure that they get the same content, but you're going to use a different presentation and mode of assessment. Always use that checking for understanding, that informal assessments, to make sure that they are following along with you. And this period lasts about 6 months. Speech emergence. So this lasts about 1 year, a 3,000-word vocabulary, and now they're able to speak in full sentences, and they're really beginning to understand you now. Intermediate fluency. This lasts about 2 years, 3,000 plus word vocabulary. Scaffolding for various assignments is important. So you will have the feeling that they understand everything, because they do understand quite a bit, but that does not mean that they have quite the extended vocabulary to be assessed and to have the expectations that you do of other students. They're going to be able to express their opinions at this point quite eloquently. And finally, you have advanced fluency. It's a duration of 4 to 10 years. The average is 7 years to become fluent in a second language. So that's 7 years is average. Students may often feel that English is their native language at this point. They still need extra help, and their vocabulary will continue to increase. Okay, so let's look at currently, this is our list of the service delivery program models. This is always being tweaked, and but this is what we have now. So we have sheltered English instruction. This is appropriate for levels 3 through 5, so intermediate to advanced. We have push in, and we also have pull out. That's appropriate for all levels. So push in means that the ESL teacher is going to push in and be with those students in the regular ed classroom. Pull out, they're going to be pulling those students out. You want to make sure that when you are pulling the students out, that they are not missing, say, recess time or their specials, things that are mandated that they have. You next, we have structured English immersion. So this is often for newcomers, and it's really, think about a boot camp, and you're making sure that they have the social and instructional language that they need to then, after that, go on into the regular ed classroom and then maybe use other models. Content-based English instruction. This is appropriate for levels 2 through 5. There's often co-teaching going on with that. And then specifically designed academic instruction in English. This is appropriate for intermediate to advanced students. With all of this, it is important that we have professional development to help us to provide whichever modality we choose. So let's look at some of the teaching strategies that reach all of our students, but are especially helpful for our ELs. Culture study. Everyone is proud of their culture. So you assign a culture study, and each student does research and interviews family, and of course does other types of research on their culture. Then they're going to present it, and there are many ways that students can present. And finally, they will take questions. This is kind of like when you were little and you were doing show and tell. There are a lot of life lessons which are learned in this, because you're able to, you're looking at research, you're looking at presentation, and then, of course, when you're taking those questions, you are working on your interpersonal skills as well. Next is realia. This is a more efficient way to learn a language because you're connecting the actual object to the word in the new language rather than the object to the first language and then from the first language to the second language. This is multisensory, so, touch, feel, all of those senses, often done in science in our regular ed classroom, but this can be extended to all of your subject areas, and it works very well with vocabulary that is maybe something, an apple or something very simple, but it can also be done for verbs very easily and even ideas. Next, we have language experience approach. So the student's life experience become the class lesson. This helps with sight words and fluency. Step one, students tell their life story. A paraprofessional writes it down, or you help the student and they write it down. I often then assign them homework to copy that story. The student reads the story at first with assistance, and then later, the goal is for them to read it all alone. You have group work, face to face interactions, social learning, friendships, project labs, jigsaw, and more. Even the students who are at a lower level can benefit because they're benefiting through observation. TPR is where the teacher says a word and makes think of it as a movement icon. So makes an icon action for that particular word. The student, the students also say and do the action. Um, Students enjoy getting up. They have to say it and do it. And then I often make it into a competition that after that, students have to close their eyes. I say the word and tell them what it is in English. And then if they got it right, they stay standing. If they missed it, they sit down, but they have to keep going in their seats. Um, Lots of supports. Assign a friend. Write in print rather than cursive. Preferential seating, which may mean by their buddy, not necessarily in the front. Simplified language. Access their prior knowledge and build on that. Know the students' cultures. Smile. Have a well planned lesson and write your procedures down. We don't want to forget about our ELL families because they are an important part with their child's education, and they can contribute so much to our classroom. Invite them to be chaperones. Translate your emails. There's lots of free translation software. Make sure you know if you need an interpreter for the meeting, integrate their culture. Have welcoming letters in their language, attend their cultural events as well. All right, so the Tennessee ELD standards align with WIDA standards. In order to refresh your knowledge of these standards, please refer to the manual you received in our district in-person training or follow this link below. And here are the big ideas for the 2020 edition: equity, integration, collaboration, and your functional approach. This again is just a quick look at the access score report, which you will be getting in the student's ILP. And you see that you have listening, speaking, reading, and writing scores. And then you have oral language, and these are combinations, and you have your overall. Each year that the score that is required for exiting is changed. So you will be told, this is where they are, and then students are going to be on from a level 1 to a level 6 is the absolute top. And we talk much more about the ILP in detail in later trainings. Thank you so much for all you do for all of your students, but especially for your ELs.